What would you do if life backed you into a corner? If the bills kept piling up, the doors kept closing, and the only way out was to step into a world where the lights are low, the music is loud, and the money comes at a price? Welcome to Movie Bites, where we bring you the stories that shaped us, moved us, and stayed with us long after the credits rolled. Today, we're diving into The Players Club, a film that wasn't just about women dancing under neon lights, but about desperation, survival, and the cost of making money the fast way. We'll take a closer look at the real names and ages of the legendary cast members, including LisaRaye McCoy, Chrystale Wilson, Monica Calhoun, Jamie Foxx, and more, and see how their careers and lives have evolved since this iconic film hit the screen. Join us as we explore the stars of The Players Club, then and now. Dollar Bill, played by the legendary Bernie Mac, was the Players Club's loud-mouthed, fast-talking, always scheming strip club owner. He wasn't just running the place, he was the place. At least, that's how he saw it. But behind all that big talk, Dollar Bill was in some serious trouble. Owing money to the wrong people, especially St. Louis and his crew, was never a good idea. And when they came knocking, well, let's just say Dollar Bill spent a good portion of the movie duct-taped in the trunk of a car, begging for his life. Bernie Mac was 40 when he brought Dollar Bill to life, and by then, he was already a comedy powerhouse. His delivery, his facial expressions, and that signature Bernie Mac presence made Dollar Bill one of the film's most unforgettable characters. Even when he was in danger, he had you laughing. Of course, The Players Club was just one stop on Bernie's incredible career. He went on to star in The Bernie Mac Show, Ocean's 11, Bad Santa, and Mr. 3000, cementing his status as one of the greatest comedians of his time. Sadly, Bernie Mac passed away in 2008 at just 50 years old, but his legacy lives on. Whether you knew him from his stand-up, his TV show, or his movies, one thing's for sure, he never held his tongue, and he never failed to make us laugh. But for a lot of fans, he'll always be Dollar Bill, the man who could talk his way into anything, but not always out of it. Let's shine a light on the fallen star, Anthony Johnson. For me, he was one of the standout characters in The Players Club. He played Little Man, the club's pint-sized bouncer with a big attitude, always making sure things ran smooth. Well, as smooth as they could in a place like that. At the time, Johnson was 32 years old, already a comedy veteran. And in The Players Club, he wasn't just standing at the door for show. If you didn't have the money, he made sure you weren't getting in to see the ladies shake what their mama gave them. No freebies, no handouts. Those were Dollar Bill's orders, and Little Man had his back at all times. He was small but mighty, running that front door like a general. And one of his funniest moments? When Brooklyn rolled up the car window with his neck stuck inside. Had him looking like a bobblehead, struggling for air. Classic. While The Players Club was another hit in his career, Johnson was best known for playing Adele in Friday, 1995, where he stole scenes with his wild antics and unforgettable one-liners. His comedic timing was unmatched, making even the smallest roles legendary. Sadly, we lost him in 2021 at just 55 years old, but his impact in comedy and film lives on. He may have played the little guy, but his presence was larger than life. Rest in peace to a true comedy legend. Let's move on to Reggie, played by Ice Cube. Reggie was just another dude from the block who hit up The Players Club to see the ladies drop it and shake it. But don't get it twisted, he wasn't just some regular customer. He had ties to St. Louis, keeping his ears to the streets and feeding info, especially when it came to Dollar Bill's whereabouts. Now, Reggie wasn't just about throwing cash, he was bad news, the type of guy who couldn't take no for an answer. When Ebony denied him her cookie, his ego couldn't handle it. Instead of moving on like a real one, he did something foul, setting her up in one of the most heartbreaking moments of the film. That's what made him such a hated character. He wasn't just a clown, he was dangerous. Ice Cube played this role so well, you almost forgot this was the same guy who gave us classics like Friday and Boys in the Hood. By the time The Players Club dropped, Cube was already a powerhouse, not just as an actor, but as a writer and producer. He co-wrote and starred in the film, proving he wasn't just about rapping. He was out here building an empire. Now 55, Ice Cube is still running the show. From barbershop to Straight Outta Compton to the Big Three basketball league, he keeps stacking wins. But when it comes to the Players Club, we all remember him as Reggie, the dude who just couldn't take no for an answer. Clyde, played by 29-year-old Alex Thomas in the Players Club, was Reggie's right-hand man, the kind of dude who acted first and thought later. He was always trying to fit in, always running with the wrong ideas, and it was only a matter of time before he found himself in trouble. One of his most reckless moments? That fight he started at the club when Luke came through. Clyde got denied access to the VIP section, and instead of taking the L and keeping it moving, he decided to act out, causing a whole scene. It was classic Clyde, doing the most when he really didn't have to. And just like his boy Reggie, Clyde was a schemer. He was all in when it came to taking advantage of Ebony, proving that he wasn't just a hothead, he was grimy too. At the time, Alex Thomas was already making waves in the industry, especially in comedy. A close friend of the Wayans family, he was everywhere in the 90s and 2000s, popping up in hit sitcoms like Martin, Girlfriends, The Parkers, and All of Us. Now 56, Alex Thomas remains a force to be reckoned with in the black community. Whether it's comedy, TV, or just making moves behind the scenes, he's been putting in work for decades. But for the Players Club fans, he'll always be Clyde, the dude who was always doing too much for the wrong reasons. Ebony, played by Monica Calhoun, was more than just Diamond's cousin. She was the wild card of the Players Club. Young, naive, and drawn to the fast life, she thought the club was an easy way to make money and have fun. But she quickly learned that the game wasn't as glamorous as it seemed. Unlike Diamond, who kept her guard up, Ebony let the wrong people in. She partied too hard, trusted the wrong crowd, and ultimately found herself in a situation she couldn't escape. Her storyline was one of the film's most heartbreaking moments, a reminder that not everyone makes it out unscathed. Monica Calhoun was 27 at the time, but she brought an authenticity to Ebony that made you feel like you knew her. Whether you wanted to shake some sense into her or protect her, you felt something, and that's what made her performance stand out. Of course, Monica's career goes far beyond the Players Club. She's best known for playing Mia in The Best Man and The Best Man Holiday, delivering another emotional performance that left audiences in tears. Now 53, Monica Calhoun has kept a low profile in recent years, but her impact is undeniable, and for a lot of fans, she'll always be Ebony, the girl who learned the hard way that not everyone in the Players Club was really her friend. Trix, played by 38-year-old Adele Givens in the Players Club, wasn't just another dancer, she was a survivor. A single mother of 4, she had been in the game for years, doing what she had to do to make ends meet. But let's be honest, the club wasn't showing her much love anymore. And that became painfully clear in one of the film's most memorable moments, when she took the stage, only for the entire club to clear out. It was a brutal reminder that in the Players Club, time moves fast, and if you're not the main attraction anymore, the crowd will let you know. Trix wasn't just there for the money, though. She was tight with Ronnie, and together, they were trouble. They had a reputation, and if you were in their way, you were in for a bad time. Trix might not have been as ruthless as Ronnie, but she was right there backing her up, laughing at the chaos, and making sure the new girls knew their place. Adele Givens was already a force in comedy by the time she took on the role. With her sharp tongue and unfiltered humor, she carved out a space in stand-up, eventually becoming one of the original queens of comedy alongside Monique, Samore, and Laura Hayes. Now 64, Adele is still making audiences laugh, touring the country, and proving that some talents never fade. But for a lot of fans, she'll always be Trix, the woman who got on stage and cleared the building. Ronnie, played by 27-year-old Chrystale Wilson, wasn't just trouble, she was the whole damn storm. In the Players Club, she ran that club like she owned it, walking around like a boss, talking slick and making sure everybody knew she wasn't one to play with. She wasn't just another dancer, she was the one, dollar bills' top earner, the one who kept them pockets fat and the money flowing. Ronnie knew how to get a crowd hyped, how to make them spend, and how to keep them coming back for more. But let's be real, She wasn't just about the money, she was about power. She took Diamond under her wing, but that wasn't no mentorship. It was a setup. And when Diamond ain't want to play her game, Ronnie made sure she paid for it. And let's not even talk about what she did to Ebony. That wasn't just foul, that was straight up grimy. And let's keep it a buck. If you a pervert, then she's the one for you. She knew how to use what she had to get what she wanted, and she had no shame in it. But don't get it twisted, she wasn't no fool. She ran game on men left and right and played the system to her advantage. The crazy part? This role stuck to Chrystale Wilson hard. A lot of folks really thought she was just like Ronnie in real life, making it tough for her to shake that image. But she ain't let it stop her. Now, 53, she's still in the game, acting and producing. But let's keep it real. No matter what else she does, to a lot of fans, she'll always be that chick from the Players Club. The queen of the club. The one who had the power, the attitude, and the fall nobody could forget. Junior, played by 25-year-old Samuel Monroe Jr., was straight up nightmare fuel. If you thought Ronnie was bad, her brother was a whole different level of grimy. This dude had no conscience, no morals, just bad intentions from the moment he stepped on screen. Junior wasn't some random club goer. He was the kind of predator that lurks in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. When Reggie set up Ebony, Junior was right there, ready to do the unthinkable. That scene? Man, it was one of the hardest moments in the Players Club. It wasn't just disturbing. It was real. It showed the dark side of the game, the kind of danger women like Ebony face when they get caught up with the wrong crowd. And that's what made Junior such a terrifying character, because guys like him exist in real life. Samuel Monroe Jr. played the hell out of that role, so much so that it followed him for years. He had already made a name for himself playing villains, from Menace to Society to Set It Off, and this role only added to his reputation. But here's the truth. Samuel is nothing like the characters he plays. He's been typecast as the bad guy for most of his career, but in reality, he's just a talented actor who knows how to make you feel something, whether it's anger, fear, or straight-up disgust. Now 51, he's still in the game, but for a lot of fans, he'll always be Junior, the disgusting dude who forced himself on Ebony. Diana Armstrong, played by LisaRaye McCoy, wasn't just the star of the Players Club, she was every dude's dream girl back in the day. Her nickname was Diamond, and when she stepped on that stage, the whole club froze. It wasn't just about her looks. She had presence, confidence, and a hustle that set her apart. Diamond wasn't dancing because she loved it. She had a plan. She was grinding her way through college, taking care of her son, and doing whatever it took to secure her future. But that club was a battlefield. Dollar Bill treated her like a cash machine, Ronnie saw her as competition, and even her own cousin, Ebony, put her in tough situations. Still, Diamond never lost sight of her goal. She wasn't about to let the game break her. At the time, LisaRaye McCoy was 31 and making her film debut, but you wouldn't know it. She played the role so well that people still call her Diamond to this day. Now 56, she's built a lasting career, starring in All of Us, Beauty Shop, and Gang of Roses. She's done reality TV talk shows and kept her name in the game. But let's be real. When you think of the Players Club, Diamond is the first name that comes to mind. She wasn't just a dancer. She was a fighter, a go-getter, and for a lot of us, the one who made us stop and say, "Damn, that woman's fine." Jamal, played by 6-year-old Orin Williams, was the heart of the Players Club, the innocent reason behind Diana's struggle. His mother, known as Diamond on stage, endured long nights and degrading situations just to put food on the table for him. But Jamal was too young to understand that. He just knew his mother loved him, and she was doing her best to keep him safe in a world that had already failed them. His father? Nowhere to be found. Another man who dipped when responsibility knocked on the door. And because of that, Diana had to take matters into her own hands. The club wasn't her dream, but it was a means to an end, a way to provide a better future for Jamal. Orin Williams, just a child at the time, brought a quiet innocence to the role. While the Players Club was his film debut, he went on to build a solid acting career. He starred as Keith Ellis in Rebound, 2005, played Junior in Kingdom Come, 2001, and had roles in For Love of Olivia, 2001, and ER, 2002. He even made appearances on The Amanda Show and Any Day Now. Now 33, Orin Williams has stepped behind the scenes, but for many fans, he'll always be Jamal, the little boy whose mother did what she had to do, all in the name of love. Let's move on to this guy, Blue, played by Jamie Foxx. He wasn't just the club's DJ, he was the heartbeat of the Players Club. If the ladies were dancing, it was because Blue had the right track playing. He had a way of reading the room, dropping the perfect song at the perfect time, and keeping the party going. Whether he was cracking jokes or keeping the vibes right, Blue made sure the club never had a dull moment. But one of his biggest moments? When he decided to help Diamond by standing at the door while she threw hands with Ronnie. Now, let's be real. If things had gone left, Blue could have been in some serious trouble. If Diamond had really taken Ronnie out, guess who would have been an accessory? Yeah, Blue wasn't exactly thinking this one through. And let's not forget, he wasn't doing it just out of the kindness of his heart. Blue had a crush on Diamond. He was always shooting his shot, trying to win her over with his charm and jokes. But let's be honest, Diamond saw him as just that. Blue, the DJ, the homie, nothing more. Jamie Foxx was 31 at the time, already making a name for himself on In Living Color and The Jamie Foxx Show. The Players Club was just another stepping stone in what would become one of the most successful careers in Hollywood. Now 57, Jamie Foxx has done it all. He's won an Oscar, dropped hit songs, headlined blockbuster films, and proven time and time again that there's nothing he can't do. But for a lot of fans, he'll always be Blue, the DJ with the smooth talk, the good music, and the hopeless crush on Diamond. Up next is Tina, played by Tracy Sherelle Jones. She wasn't just a bartender at the Players Club. She was one of the few people in that place who actually had some sense. And let's be real, she was fine as hell. She wasn't up there dancing, but she didn't need to be. Her presence alone turned heads. But beyond the looks, Tina had something a lot of people in that club didn't: a good heart. She saw Diamond struggling to navigate that world and actually tried to give her some advice. In a place full of snakes, Tina was one of the rare folks who wasn't trying to use her. At the time of filming, Tracy Sherelle Jones was 28 and already making waves. If you watched Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood, 1996, then you know exactly why folks remember her.
My name is Dashiki. That's Swahili for doggy style.
Ooh. That scene? Legendary. And she kept the momentum going, showing up in Baby Boy, 2001, Players Ball, 2003, and Love Chronicles. Now 55, she's been keeping out of the spotlight, and that's a damn shame because Hollywood could use more of her. She had that unique mix of beauty, charm, and talent that made you wish she had been in even more films. If she ever decides to step back in the game, best believe people would be ready to see her shine again. Luke, played by 38-year-old Luther Roderick Campbell, wasn't just a rapper making a cameo, he was living the role. Anytime he pulled up to the Players Club, the energy shifted. The drinks flowed, the music got louder, and the dancers knew it was time to put in work, because Luke always made it rain. He wasn't the type to roll up solo either. He had his own personal bouncer, a walking security system making sure nobody got too close. And when Clyde and Reggie tried to finesse their way into the VIP section, it sparked one of the wildest brawls in the club's history. But outside the club, Uncle Luke was already a legend. As the frontman of 2 Live Crew, he helped shape Miami bass music and took on the government in one of the biggest free speech battles in hip-hop history. He was the reason explicit lyrics labels exist on albums today. His personal life? Well, let's just say Luke kept busy. He reportedly has 6 or 7 kids, each with a different mother, and in 2009, he even got arrested for falling behind on child support. Now 64, Uncle Luke remains a respected figure in hip-hop and the black community. Whether he was making music, making headlines, or making it rain, one thing was for sure: when Luke stepped in, the party was just getting started. The Doctor, played by 50-year-old Badja Djola, wasn't your typical enforcer. He was the kind of man whose presence alone made people rethink their life choices. If you owed St. Louis money, he didn't just send a warning. He sent the doctor. And once that happened, your options were simple. Pay up or prepare for the worst. Dollar Bill learned that the hard way. Already drowning in debt, the last thing he needed was a late-night house call from a man built like a nightmare, standing in his bedroom with a rifle like it was just another day at the office. The way Dollar Bill panicked? That wasn't just fear. That was a man who knew he had officially run out of luck. The doctor didn't yell, didn't threaten. He didn't need to. That calm, menacing presence said everything. Badja Djola made a career out of playing men like this, characters you knew were dangerous without them having to raise their voice. From Mississippi Burning to Penitentiary, A Rage in Harlem, and Who's the Man? He mastered the art of the quiet storm. You never saw him playing the fool. He was always the one with the upper hand, the one people feared and respected. Sadly, Djola passed away in 2005 at just 56 years old due to a heart attack. Let's move on to Brooklyn, played by the late, great Charlie Murphy. Now, if you know anything about Charlie, you know he had that raw, no-nonsense energy that made every role he touched unforgettable. And in the Players Club, Brooklyn was no different. He was that dude you didn't want to mess with. Brooklyn was a streetwise enforcer, rolling with St. Louis and making sure business got handled. He wasn't the type to talk much, but when he did, you knew he meant business. And if you crossed the wrong people? Well, let's just say Brooklyn wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. One of his funniest yet coldest moments was when he rolled up the car window on Little Man's neck, had dude gasping for air while Brooklyn didn't even flinch. That's the kind of energy he brought to the game. By the time the Players Club dropped, Charlie Murphy was already deep in the industry. But a lot of folks still didn't realize he was Eddie Murphy's big brother. He built his own name with roles in CB4, and later became a legend on Chappelle's Show, where his True Hollywood Stories skits about Rick James and Prince became instant classics. Sadly, we lost Charlie Murphy in 2017 at the age of 57, but his legacy lives on. Whether in movies, TV, or stand-up, he always brought that unfiltered, real-deal presence that made every scene he was in unforgettable. Rest easy, Brooklyn. Wherever Casey goes, trouble ain't too far behind. Played by 29-year-old Terrence Howard, Casey was Brooklyn's right-hand man and one of St. Louis' most loyal soldiers. If the boss needed a favor, no questions asked, Casey was on it. And when it came to tracking down Dollar Bill over that $60,000 debt, you already knew he was more than ready to get his hands dirty. Casey wasn't just about talking tough. He was a hands guy. He didn't hesitate, didn't second guess. If the boss needed somebody handled, Casey was right there with Brooklyn, ready to do what needed to be done. He had that smooth but dangerous energy, the kind of dude you don't turn your back on. And Terrence Howard played it to perfection. By the time the Players Club dropped, Howard was already making a name for himself, but his career was only getting started. He went on to star in Hustle and Flow. He stepped into the Marvel universe as James Rhodes in Iron Man. And of course, he ran TV screens for years as Lucius Lyon on Empire. Now 56, Howard's career speaks for itself. But let's be real. He's been underpaid for a lot of the work he's put in. He brings so much heart and soul to his characters, you can't help but feel for him. No matter the role, he gives it his all, and that's why he's one of the best to ever do it. Officer Peters, played by Faizon Love, was that one cop you couldn't take seriously even if you tried. He wasn't some hardcore detective cracking cases. He was just a dude from the block who somehow ended up with a badge. And Brooklyn never let him forget it. Peters might have had the uniform, but he still got clowned like he was just another guy from the neighborhood. And let's be real, he wasn't exactly the best at his job. One of his funniest moments was when he followed Brooklyn and KC, completely missing the fact that they had Dollar Bill duct taped in the trunk. The man couldn't solve a mystery if it came with instructions. Faizon Love was 30 at the time, fresh off his role as Big Worm in Friday, and his comedic timing was already top tier. He kept bringing the laughs in movies like Mr. Bones, 2001, Who's Your Caddy, 2007, and Couples Retreat, 2009. Now 56, he's still a respected figure in the black community, holding it down in comedy and film. But when it comes to the Players Club, we'll always remember him as Officer Peters, the cop who thought he had authority, but was really just another dude Brooklyn used to know from 10th grade. Officer Freeman, played by 54-year-old John Amos in the Players Club, was the kind of cop who was supposed to keep the streets in check. But in reality, he barely had a clue. He had the badge, the authority, and the years on the force, but when it came to actually knowing what was going on, let's just say he wasn't exactly Sherlock Holmes. Brooklyn and Casey were riding around with dollar bill duct taped in the trunk, and Officer Freeman had no idea. The crime, the hustle, the shady deals, none of it seemed to register with him. He wasn't corrupt, but he wasn't exactly making a difference either. He was just there. By the time he took on this role, John Amos had already left his mark on television history. He was James Evans Sr. on Good Times, the father figure every household respected. He played Kunta Kinte in Roots, delivering one of the most powerful performances in TV history. And those are just a few of his countless roles. Sadly, John Amos passed away in 2024 at the age of 84. His career spanned decades, and his impact reached across generations. He gave us strong, commanding performances, but in the Players Club, he gave us something different. A cop who, despite all his years, still had a lot to learn. And that's the thing about John Amos. Whether he was playing a hero, a father, or a clueless cop, he always made you remember him. Professor Mills, played by 36-year-old Ron Reiser in the Players Club, is one of the film's most ironic and unforgettable figures. He wasn't just any professor. He was Diamond's professor. The man was supposed to be shaping young minds, guiding students towards success. But instead, he was front and center at the club, throwing cash like he didn't just lecture about responsibility that morning. And then came that moment, the one that had everybody shaking their heads. He walked into the Players Club looking for a good time, only to lock eyes with Diamond, one of his own students. The awkwardness? Priceless. The hypocrisy? Off the charts. Reiser had already made his mark in Hollywood, appearing in House Party, but most fans remember him as Stanley from Friday, the dude who just wanted Craig and Smokey to stay off his damn lawn. But after the 90s, his career slowed down, and he faded from the industry. Now 63, he's kept a low profile, staying out of the Hollywood spotlight. But for fans of the Players Club, he'll always be that professor, the one who preached education by day and made it rain by night. XL, played by 40-year-old Tommy Tiny Lister Jr. in the Players Club, was the kind of bouncer you didn't want problems with. His name might have been XL, but the real joke was his nickname, Tiny. Because let's be real, there was nothing tiny about him. The club had little man guarding the door. But inside? That's where they kept the real muscle. XL was built like a tank, and he didn't need to say much. His presence alone kept folks in check. You almost wished someone would try him, just to see what would happen. Lister was already a fan favorite by then, thanks to his unforgettable role as Debo in Friday. That character made him one of the most feared figures in film, but in real life, he was known as a kind, humble guy who loved his fans. His career spanned decades, from action films to comedies to pro wrestling. Sadly, Lister passed away in 2020 at the age of 62 due to a heart condition. But his legacy lives on. For many fans, he'll always be that larger-than-life presence, the guy who could silence a room with just a look. And then there was another big bouncer at the Players Club, Michael Clark Duncan. But unlike XL, he wasn't there to protect the club. He was there for Luke, standing like a human wall at the entrance to VIP. Now, Clyde wasn't the type to think things through. When he and Reggie got blocked from the VIP section, they could have just taken the L and kept it moving. But nah, Clyde had to run his mouth, and Reggie, never one to miss a chance to stir up trouble, turned a simple no entry into an all-out club brawl. Michael Clark Duncan didn't say much in the scene, but he didn't have to. His size alone spoke volumes. And if there was ever a moment when you wished someone would really get tested, it was right there. Unfortunately, we never got to see him fully flex in the Players Club, but the moment was a preview of what was coming. At the time, Duncan was still working his way up in Hollywood, mostly doing smaller roles. But just a few years later, he'd land the Green Mile and show the world that he wasn't just muscle, he was a force. Sadly, he passed away in 2012 at 54, but his impact was undeniable. Looking back, it's wild to see him and Tiny Lister, two giants in every sense, holding it down in the same film, making their presence known even in the smallest roles. Mr. Armstrong, played by 64-year-old Dick Anthony Williams in The Players Club, was Diamond's father. But let's be real, he wasn't exactly a great one. When Diamond got pregnant, he was distraught. You could see the disappointment written all over his face. But instead of guiding her, instead of stepping up and doing whatever it took to support his daughter, what did he do? He let her walk right into a strip club to make ends meet. Any real father would have done everything in his power to stop that from happening, but Mr. Armstrong? He just let it slide. And then when Blue came around trying to take Diamond on a date, suddenly he wanted to act like the protective dad. That moment was cringy as hell. He grilled Blue like he was about to put his foot down. But come on, where was that energy when Diamond was out here dancing to survive? It was too little, too late. Dick Anthony Williams brought his signature intensity to the role. By the time he stepped into the Players Club, he had already left his mark on Broadway with The Poison Tree, What the Wine Cellars Buy, and Black Picture Show. He was also a force in the blaxploitation era, starring in classics like The Mac and Slaughter's Big Ripoff. Sadly, he passed away in 2012 at the age of 77, but his legacy remains. Whether he was playing a hustler, a businessman, or a father who didn't quite get it right, Dick Anthony Williams always gave performances that stuck with you. Mrs. Armstrong, played by 50-year-old Judy Ann Elder in The Players Club, was Diamond's mother, the woman who nodded in agreement to everything her husband said. If Mr. Armstrong had a thought, best believe Mrs. Armstrong was right there backing it up. She wasn't about to challenge him, question him, or go against his word. She played the role of the supportive wife to a T, even when it came to her daughter's choices. When her mother found out Diamond was pregnant, she sat in the background, co-signing her husband's disappointment. But let's keep it real. She didn't do much to stop Diamond from ending up at the Players Club. Maybe she was just too passive, or maybe she felt trapped in her own situation. But either way, she never stepped in the way Diamond needed her to. At the time, Judy Ann Elder was already a respected actress in the game. You might remember her as Nadine Waters on Martin, or as the second Harriet Winslow in the final season of Family Matters. She had that warm, familiar presence that made her perfect for motherly roles, but she also knew how to hold her own on screen. Now 76, she's kept things low-key, but her legacy in black television is locked in. And for those who remember the Players Club, she'll always be Mrs. Armstrong, the mother who stayed in her husband's shadow, even when her daughter needed her to step into the light. Lance, played by 30-year-old Monte Russell, was Diamond's boyfriend, or at least that's what he wanted to be. They met at the Players Club, and after a few days he was already talking about her quitting. Like, come on, dude. You didn't meet her in church. You knew exactly where she worked and what she did, but suddenly, you had a problem with it? And if that wasn't enough, this clown went and cheated on her with Ebony. Of all the people in the world, he chose her own cousin. That was the moment he really had you shaking your head. He played the supportive boyfriend when it was convenient, but when it came down to it, he was just as grimy as the rest. Monte Russell was already making moves in Hollywood, having appeared in After the Silence, 1996, and later in Godzilla, 1998. Now 57, he chooses to live a private life. But for many fans, he'll always be Lance, the guy who thought he could turn a stripper into a housewife, only to fumble the bag and the girl in record time. St. Louis, played by Larry McCoy, wasn't just any loan shark. He was the kind of man who made sure you never forgot you owed him. He fronted dollar bill $60,000, but he wasn't unreasonable at first. He gave Dollar Bill a chance, asking for just $10,000 to start. But when Dollar Bill started ducking him, St. Louis made it clear he wasn't playing. And when a man like St. Louis loses his patience, it doesn't end well. With a calm yet menacing presence, He didn't need to do much to command respect. Just a look, a few words, and people knew better than to cross him. And when it was time to collect, he didn't just send a warning, he sent the doctor, his enforcer, to pull up on Dollar Bill with a rifle. Larry McCoy brought that same intensity to every role he played. He appeared in films like Malcolm X, 1992, Dead Presidents, 1995, and Bulletproof, 1996, often portraying men who meant business. His exact age during the Players Club is a mystery, and as for where he is today, that's another question without a clear answer. Maybe he's still out there, watching, waiting, just like St. Louis did when it was time to collect. And there you have it, the faces, the stories, and the legacies behind the Players Club. From breakout performances to lasting careers, these actors left their mark on a film that still resonates today. Whether they kept shining in Hollywood or took new paths, their impact remains undeniable. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the past and present of the Players Club. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the films that shaped the culture. Until next time, keep the conversation going, and remember, choose wisely, because every choice comes with a price.